So we're going to invite onto the show this morning Lars van Tonder. Morning. Good morning.
Let's hope it works. Is it working?
Oh, yes, I can see you, but I cannot hear you. Why is that, Asfat? Our sound engineer is resolving the technical considerations here. How are you, Lars?
I'm
We're
well.
definitely having these technical things this morning. I cannot hear Lars at all. So while our sound engineer corrects that for us, if you're a seasoned gardener or you're just starting out, do consider Clivias. Consider adding them to your collection because we're going to explore how to care for them. We're going to talk about maybe some of the best varieties you can use. And now, yes, I have sound because I can hear the clickety, clackety, clackety of keyboard fingers. Good morning, Lars. How are you?
Third time lucky, are we?
Third time lucky. Goeiemôre. Hoe gaan dit, meneer?
Goeiemôre. Good morning. Very well. Thank you. Sorry about that. I think.
No, not your fault at all.
It's our crispy morning in Gauteng that caused this, I think.
I think yes. You know, we're very fortunate down in Durban that we don't have that freezing cold weather that you guys go through up there. I mean, a little shirt over a shirt and we're good to go.
Exactly.
Now you are so busy during the day, and for the listener at home, I've known Lars now probably about 16 years now, approximately. And I did not know that you actually grow Clivias. So tell us, how did you get started growing them? And how long have you been growing them?
The Clivias has been part of my life for some years, but very quickly. As a child, my folks had a farm in Mpumalanga, and I got to know the Barberton daisy growing wild on the farm, areas in the kranzes everywhere. And the beauty of that plant just blew me away, and I started really enjoying gardening. So the area I live in now, which is in Roodepoort in Johannesburg, and Northcliffe areas around here, a lot of people have Clivias, and I just thought, no, this is far too beautiful not to have in my garden. And I then got hold of a few plants, and then I saw these beautiful bright red seeds, and I thought, no, I must try this. And so, as you said earlier, that I've been self-taught, but I've read up an enormous amount, attended a number of Clivia shows, and I then just started applying the simple things, and I think so much of beauty lies in simplicity. And I've been doing this now for 4 years, and I currently have over 600 seedlings in my on the property, and I plant about 200 annually.
So every year you're putting in 200 Clivias. Do they die away?
Unfortunately, I can't hear you. I need to just see. Now it's on my side.
Oh dear. So I was going to ask, can you hear me now?
Sorry.
Tap, 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 tap. Can you hear me now? Lars, were we good?
Yeah, no, I can't.
No. All right, let's get Asfat on there. But
maybe
listen, think about
I can
that.
see. But
200 plants a year that Lars is putting in there. And he's got at the moment 600 seedlings, did he say? So you can imagine how much one must love Clivias in order to have so many of them growing. Asfat, are we good to go? How's our sound there? You're good. Okay. So let's just give that a try. Sorry for the technical issues this morning, folks. We are dialing in by video, and so you can watch us on Facebook as well as YouTube. And sometimes that presents us with some technical logistics over here. But yes, we are live again with Lars. So, Lars, are we good to go? You can hear me? We okay? No, we're not. Okay, that's a pity. Okay.
Sorry,
No, nothing. Okay, I can hear you though, but you can't hear me, so that doesn't really help. Okay, so Clivias are the kind of plants, if you imagine agapanthus, if you've ever seen agapanthus, now these are two completely different plants, but think of what is an agapanthus. It's got these long shiny leaves, and then there is a long stalk, and there's this purple flowers that all come off of a central place, almost like a pom-pom of purple. And that pom-pom of purple is these agapanthus. And agapanthus grow in full sun. Now, Clivia for me always reminds me quite sacrilegiously of a clivia, because the clivias and the agapanthus for me kind of they are both low growing plants with these bright green leaves, these long kind of leaves that fall open from the center. And then, of course, the difference being that with clivias, you've got these trumpet-shaped flowers, and they are obviously different colors. We're still trying to get hold of Lars once again. And in the meantime, I would welcome you to let me know on our WhatsApp number. Let us know what you think of clivias. Have you grown them? Do you know clivias? Have you tried to grow clivias at all, and what has been your success like? Let us know. Let us know. You have our WhatsApp number. We're going to try Lars once again. Good morning. Are you back with us? No, we're definitely. Oh, there we go. I can still hear him, but he can't hear us. So, folks, let me move on. I'm going to actually start talking a little bit about the potatoes whilst we get Lars back on the line. Now, what are some of the health benefits of potatoes? I have to jump into this whilst we wait for Lars to get back on the line. So, first of all, potatoes are good eaten. Yes, they are. They're good eaten. And why? Because they're actually quite high in vitamin C, and they do have a nice amount of fiber for us. But the fiber that they give us also, unfortunately, comes with a very high amount of carbohydrates, which, if you are watching your figure, might not be the very, very best thing. Okay, so potatoes are great in terms of the anti-aging benefits that they have. Asfat, there is quite a noise in the background. If you could help me with that, please. Sorry, our sound engineer, as you can hear this morning, it is chaos. It is chaos in the studios. But we are fixing it for you. What is the anti-aging properties of potatoes? Well, firstly, they do contain fiber, yes. But did you know that potato juice is actually great for those dark circles beneath your eyes? Yes. Did you know that they actually are great for dark skin? Yes, they are great for dark skin. And did you know, so if you have those dark under eyes, okay, dark under eyes, you can put your potato juice on there to lighten the skin. If you have hyperpigmentation and you're wanting to lighten the skin there, you can as well. You can use this on your neck, the décolletage, the face, and it is anti-aging, it is brightening, it is moisturizing, it deals with dark circles, and of course, as we said, differences in pigmentation. So sometimes we just go into the sun and we get those dark patches. Okay, to get rid of those, you can apply a little bit of potato juice. Yep. Now, something I did not know about potatoes, and I found out this week, is that potatoes are at risk. So if you love your aloo, then you need to make sure that you are growing your aloo, because aloo is at risk at the moment. And it's predicted that by December, we're going to be looking at paying around 300 Rand for a pocket of potatoes. Not good at all. Asfat, how are we there with the sound? We're good? We're good to go? Okay. So I'm going to be talking to you a little bit later on how to actually grow those potatoes. In the meantime, remember the potato juice for your dark skin, for those hyperpigmentation. Try it now and let me know how it goes. Do we have Lars back on the line? Good morning.
I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you. Awesome. You're back. I was
Wonderful.
Suddenly talking about potatoes. Did you know that they can lighten your skin? Mm-hmm.
I heard you saying so. Never knew it.
Okay, so now you were telling us how you got started, that you've got 600 little seedlings and you put in 200 every year. Do they die back?
So if I can answer you from another angle, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What I do in terms of the seedlings, I gather them and I beg and borrow, but I never steal from friends and from various places. And there's a process that you need to follow to grow them. But what is very nice is that the flowering time is about this time of the year, anything from August to November, depending on where you are. And then the flower will obviously die back, and you need to harvest the seed. And then there's a way of preparing it, and happy to talk about that before you're planting it in the correct kind of um, soil mixture for them. They need well-drained soil, and then you just wait for them to germinate, and that can take 2-3 months to germinate sometimes.
Wow. So, and don't forget about them in the meantime. Do you have to keep them warm? Do they grow in the shade? Do they need to be in the sun to germinate?
Now, so there are various techniques, and some people follow very, I think, I don't want to say complicated processes or ways forward. For me, I keep it simple. So what you do is when the clump of seeds or the fruit is nice and red, you pluck it and start doing so before they start going almost some shades of darkness or black. Then you open it up, you peel off the husk around it, and then there's a very thin film around every seed, and you take that out. So what I do is I take half a teaspoon of a antibacterial detergent, Sunlight, all of those people make that, a drop in water, mix it, and you throw all the seeds in there, and I just let it lie there for a minute or two every now and then I rinse it in clear water, but you have to wash your hands, and I put it on dry kitchen paper. It dries out, and then I have trays that have I buy it in bulk, but you get a Clivia mix, or if you don't have it, must be potting soil, a very well-drained soil. And then if you want to, for me, the top half a centimeter, I put germination mix on the top. So at the top is germination mix, below that is the potting soil or the Clivia mix. And when you look at a seed, it looks like it's got a dark dot, and that dark dot must be facing down, and the facing down part is where the root will then enter in. And so from there, all I do is it must be dappled shade. So mine gets shade, a little bit of sun in the morning, but I put 50% netting, the netting that you get just over trays. So you get any kind of tray, but I used to buy the trays that they pick the grapes in the vineyards, and I put the mix in there so it drains naturally. I put the cloth over it, the shade cloth over it, and I water it once a week. And then, Rabia, from there, it is just so easy. You let it grow for months and months. I normally then let it grow for a year in those trays. And from there, I plant it over in 5-liter bags, which I then only have the Clivia mix. But you can take any potting soil, any of that, and you just leave it. And that's the most wonderful thing. So if you're lucky with it, will flower in the 4th year. And as I say, after 1 year, into a bag, and then I leave it for 3 more years, and then I hand out to my friends. I don't sell it. I just give it back to people where I got seeds from. And that, in short, is the germination story. And
so you've taken those little seeds. Now, sometimes the birds get to them. Would you cover them up maybe with some netting when the fruit is growing? No,
it becomes quite tricky to do so. And I'm very fortunate, perhaps, that I don't have a problem with the birds. You have one problem with Clivias, and that's a horrible worm that often from September to January, it's a dark colored worm. It's about 4 centimeters long, and it's got light stripes on it. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name. But that horrible little thing, its eggs are laid by a butterfly on the leaves, and then they start tunneling from the leaves. So if you see thin little lines in your leaves, it's crisis time, and you have to spray.
What do you use for the spray?
I use a product called Complete, but I'll Google it and maybe let you know, and you can let people know later. But
oops, we are we're cutting off. I'm going to take a message from one of our listeners in the meantime. Okay, I'm not sure how to.
For them it's
So I'm just going to take a quick message from a listener, Razia Khan. Of course, Razia Khan. Salams, walaikum salam. Rabia, a flowery spring day to you and the listeners. Go out, walk on Mother Earth barefoot, smell the flowers and the fresh air, and enjoy spring day. Yes, and a wonderful spring day to everybody this morning. We have questions on the actual Clivias to repeat the process of planting the seeds. So as Lars had said, what you're going to do is you're going to harvest that little fruit pod that is nice and ripe, and you're going to remove the outer layer, and around the seed there is a little skin. You're going to take that skin off. And then the other important tip you gave us, Lars, was to put that seed into the ground with that little dot that's on the seed facing down, because that's where the root's going to come out of. Can you hear us? Or how are we doing with sound? You there? No. So the seeds basically also go into a fine seed germination mix. Now, germination mix is a lot finer normally than your other potting soil or even your Clivia mix, which is a mix of potting soil and sometimes perlite to keep it kind of very aerated, and sometimes there's vermiculite in it. So the reason why Lars is putting the seeds into germination mix, of course, is because the germination mix is a lot finer. So we can hear you again. Can you hear us? There seems to be a constant today with our sound. Are you there? If you have any questions, dear listener, you can WhatsApp our studio line on 060 904 1056. 060 904 1056. So you've taken us through the growing of the Clivias. Now, you said, how long does it take them to establish themselves? How long does it take the plant to establish itself?
Rabia, they can take 4 years to flower. I just want to check if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So my process is easy. Thank you for describing the process of taking the seed and growing them. But from there, once I've planted them in my seedling trays, I keep them there, and it's quite high. Let me just say, I use those big trays, and so below the seed, I have at least 20 centimeters height, because the roots are far down. After 1 year, I plant it in 5-liter bags, and then I keep it there for another 3 years. So it's about 4 years from germination before you
till the time that you actually get the flowers.
Wow. Yeah. And very quickly, one of the points you mentioned is that the indigenous types, you mostly get the bright orange and now and then the yellow. But those are the natural colors in nature.
How would they get the other colors? Would that be through hybridization? And
100% so. So you get fantastic colors, but those are due to years of hard work by specialists in the field. For me, I keep to what nature has provided us with, and I'm happy with a bright orange. But I try and grow more and more of the yellow. I've got yellow that is naturally grown in my garden, and they sometimes, when you start with the yellow seed, or the seed from a yellow plant, they turn out orange. One of the things you can't control.
Yeah. Now, the listener at home, you may be listening to this, my dear listener, and you may be thinking, gosh, 4 years to grow a Clivia. Oh, my hat. Yeah, 4 years. But you know what? If you think about it in the broader scope of things, it is a labor of love. And to see those little plants begin to germinate and watch them getting stronger, and then having them give us flowers. And then you consider some of the fruit out there. So I have a Jabuticaba tree that all of you know is my favorite fruit by now. And the Jabuticaba tree takes 5 years before it begins to do anything substantial, and 10 years before you're getting a good amount of fruit in it. So the Clivia, if you think about it, it's going to flower in order to produce the fruit, in order to reproduce itself. It's actually not a very, very long period of time. But you've told us by seed. But what happens now if I've got a Clivia and I'm wanting to move it? I want to move it from one pot to another, or kind of go from a pot to the ground. Any special precautions I need to be taking?
Not really, other than make sure that if you split a current plant, you will clearly see the clumps, and you must split between the clumps. As long as it has a few roots, you'll be fine. What I have found is, because often they become so thick that I replant them and just spread them out. And then I'm fortunate I've not observed that having lost more than one season of flowering. So
Mhm.
the season directly after replanting, you may not end up with flowers. Sometimes you do, but maximum one season you may lose. But once it goes into the flowering circle, it will continue, perhaps 1 year to be lost when you replant.
Now, I know normally during flowering season, when I'm wanting plants to flower, I go with a higher phosphorus. So in NPK, I use a higher phosphorus. The P is higher than the other. So if you're out there looking for fertilizers and you're thinking, what is this NPK story? Remember, N is your nitrogen, P is your phosphorus, and K is your potassium. So you can use a higher P for your plants, and in that flowering season. But is there anything that you do to keep your plants healthy generally, Lars?
Um, to add to your point, exactly, I do. I feed them in summer. I start off in the first while of summer. I feed them 232. And as I get closer to winter, I move over to 315, but I do it basically once each. The 315 will add to the really robust flowering. 232 good for the general health of the plant. And what I do, and just to come back, is that lily borer, that is this horrible borer that you get, that will destroy 200 plants within a week. It is
Oh my.
absolutely, it is phenomenally bad, and you need to look. And I've just thought, maybe just in general terms for people listening in, you could buy various products. One of them is Ripcord,
Mm-hmm.
Protex, and as long as it is worm-based control, and you
So,
spray it over, and that
mhm.
would really prevent them causing damage.
So I found an organic treatment that works very well for the lily borers as well as for the weavers, the leaf weavers, because it's similarly what it does is it creates this little line within the leaf.
Yes,
And for the listeners out there, if you'd like that recipe, that is neem oil. It's organic. So you buy yourself some neem oil. You'll take 2 tablespoons of neem oil. You'll take 2 tablespoons of dishwash liquid, and then you're going to take 2 liters of water. Shake it all up, and then just watch that water and count to 10. If within the count of 10 you're seeing oil bubbles float to the surface, you need a little bit more dishwash liquid, so you're going to add in another tablespoon. It depends on how hard your water is, on how strong your neem oil is. And once it's ready, you can use that neem oil spray for your lily borers, for your leaf weavers, for all sorts of bugs and fungi and things like that. So there's a recipe for you. I think we need to take an ad break with all these technical issues. We've completely forgotten to do the necessary. So we're going to do the necessaries and come straight back to you, Lars, after the break. This morning on our Clivia show, as we speak about how to grow clivias and how to propagate them. Interesting thing you mentioned, Lars, was when you are potting out your clivias, you could actually then subdivide them to propagate them, to make more of them. So they are clumped up and you're going to cut in the middle as long as you're getting leaves. Could you cut them more than in 2, or as long as you could subdivide them?
it fortunately is easy to see. You will see the clump. So you'll see out of this clump are all the leaves. Do not break a clump, then it'll die. So you may
Okay.
eventually have 5 clumps or so. I
Mm-hmm.
separate mine maybe every 3 years. Because otherwise you end up breaking the flowering cycle, which I don't like doing.
Okay. And in terms of growing them, we said dappled shade, or do they grow in
Yes.
full shade? No, they
Yeah,
need.
full shade, the flowering will be less. Dappled shade is perfect. Some of mine get early morning sun, which is in order because that's not so
Mhm.
hot. But if it is hot, the leaves will start curling up and die from the ends, and the flowers will very quickly lose their color and they become very pale in color. So
Mhm.
dappled
Could
shade is perfect.
could you repeat for us the NPK? So when it's going into flower, you're going with a higher P, and then when it's starting to fruit, I always say to folks, the flower. So when you're wanting the green leaves, the first one has to be higher. When you're wanting the flower, the middle one has to be higher. When you're wanting fruit, that then become seeds, that's when your K, the last one, needs to be higher, your potassium. So
Yeah.
what are the ones that you use as an NPK?
Let me just recap in terms of what I do. I do
Yes.
not,
Yes.
so they flower in winter, and I do not feed them in winter at all.
Okay.
So only in the summer. I start off with 315. That's 315, and
Yeah.
that will really add nice energy to the plant, and it'll build up a lot of energy for the flowering. And from there, a second feed will be 232, and that will just ensure that it grows well. One can swap the two, but I followed a pattern of 315 and then 232.
Okay, so you're actually using a higher potassium initially, and then that's interesting. That's an interesting one. So using higher potassium, and then you're going for kind of a full-bodied feeding system. So
Yes.
there you have it, folks. Clivias, all about growing clivias, from the man himself sitting with 600 of them. So how many did you say you have at the moment, kind of in your garden, would you estimate?
Oh, in my garden, yeah. So the 600 are in seedling bags. I would say most probably uh, another 500 as well. And it's not that I have such a massive garden. It may sound like it, but
They
they
clump
actually
together.
grow. They grow clump quite closely
Mm.
together. And every spot that I could turn into a shady spot over the years since I've moved in here, I've turned into shade spots. Lots of trees that I've planted, and I've taken out tons of kikuyu and lawn, and I've put all the natural plants in there, and I've replaced most of it with Clivias.
Wonderful.
So
Do
my
clivias?
lawning is almost zero. I don't do much
Oh, wow.
mowing of the lawn now.
And do you find the clivias do well in pots, or are they better in the ground?
No, they do perfectly in pots. You need to just make sure that they don't like wet feet. They will die off
Mm-hmm.
very quickly. And so a
Mm-hmm.
proper watering once every 2 or 3 weeks, if it, and the Durban weather would require more regular watering,
Mm-hmm.
but it must never be wet. It must drain properly.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, they are just beautiful, but you need to make sure enough light and a bit of
Yes.
heat. It mustn't be too cold indoors, but that you
I
don't
have
have down there.
I'm having visions of these hanging baskets hanging from under these big fever trees that we've got, where the sun is let in just so, and then the light
Mm,
is let in just so. How absolutely beautiful. Clivias, give them a try. Go out and look at the varieties of them. Lars, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. It was super to have you. Despite our technical issues, which, yay, we got them resolved. And
absolutely.
and I will speak with you in the week, no doubt.
We
Have an
will.
awesome weekend, and thank you
Uh,
so much once again for being on the show with us.
and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Have a lovely day to all
Thank you.
listeners and
Thank you very
yourself.
much.
Thank you.